Thank you, Angel, and Heidi ho, everyone. Welcome aboard. Brand new week of trading and a brand new week of Ash and myself and Trading Buddies. Glad you could join us. And I hope you're enjoying Trading Buddies and you're finding that it's useful to you and it's nice to rub shoulders with people of like minds and hopefully get some sort of, assistance from that. I remember when I first started trading, if I had a trading buddy, I would have been over the moon. And I think it's a whole lot better way to get into the markets when you've got somebody that you can run stuff off. And that's exactly what Trading Buddies is all about. So don't be shy. Jump in and ask as many questions as you like. And of course, if you've got some charts that you want to have a look at, then by all means, shout it out. That's what we're here for. Okay, let me firstly go and have a look at the pound, shall we, versus the US dollar. And I think, as has been the case for a couple of weeks now, it's whilst it's ranging vigorously, if there's such a thing. And what I mean by that is every single day it seems to be doing these ones. Up once, down next, up once, down next. So very, very difficult to get any follow through. And therefore, breakouts. And that's, of course, what we're looking for. So today is no different, I've got to say. You know, we've got an extreme range again. When I say extreme, it's not completely over the moon, but it is in the last 48 hours, 90 odd pips. So it's tough to be saying, okay, I want to break here and I want to break there when we haven't broken either one of those for quite some time. Yes, it will happen, but why now? Who's to say it's going to happen today? Certainly not me. And in fact, when I look at this chart, I think, perhaps there's opportunities coming. I'm actually going to tighten up this range a little bit because I think rather than what we have on the daily, which is pretty much these two highs up here and these lows down here. And those of you who don't know how I put a parameter around that, or indeed give myself the right to draw a rectangle, and where they start, where they end, well, we never know where they end until that happens, of course. But what I'm looking for is two equal highs and two equal lows. And as soon as I see that, first two here, first two there, as soon as I see that, I join them together. Now, they're not always obvious on the different time frames, of course. So this one, I'm actually using the 4-hour chart. So the first two highs, in my humble opinion, that one and that one. Now, of course, that's a high, but it's not exactly equal. So two equal highs and two equal lows. As soon as I've got that, I'm happy. Now, the lows, you may note, are actually not on the bottom of the candles. They're actually on the open and close of the candles. That's perfectly fine. You can use a combination of each. You can use either. I'm more than happy as long as I can see something that's clear. And this, to me, is a clear range. But I do believe that we have a tightened or a tighter range that has formed as well, because these highs have failed to reach these previous highs. So if you're waiting for this to get to the top, ever since this happened, you'd be disappointed 1, 2, 3, 4 times now. So I'm going to put another range in here. And I'm going to use that high. And I'm probably going to join it with the opens and closes of these. But I'll have to go probably to there. Opens and close, low, high, open and close. I'm happy with that. Open and close up here as well. So there is an inner range here as far as I'm concerned. Now today, it looks pretty clear to me what I would be looking for. I'd be looking for a pivot test, then a bounce off the pivots and a higher low in this vicinity here. So up, down, gone to the top of the range where you'd be taking most of your profit off. And if you're fortunate enough to get a little bit more follow through, then away it'll go. And if they take on the highs here, then you've got that one going for you as well. Now, interestingly, we have broken below the bottom of this range. Now, that range, again, is not range I call the range, right? It is an ascending channel, of course. Very interesting that we bounced off the top and came to the bottom, but it took a heck of a long time to get there, didn't they? Didn't it? Courtesy of this box range. But we've still got a double top here, and this is not a fait accompli by any stretch of the imagination. We're bound here by fences, if you like. We've got the monthly pivot holding price up. We've got this trade line or bottom of the range holding this up, and we've got that. So there's a heck of a confluence here. The good part about that is this is going to be a great place to trade from. If we can find an entry here somewhere, this will be a great place to trade one. Either way, and I don't care which way, but my preference, because of this big double top sitting here, is going to be to the downside. So if I can find a way in here, happy days. Sure how that's going to work at this level. Maybe we need a close below the monthly pivot and a retest, maybe something like that, or on the smaller time frames, a break of resistance. We've got a nice resistance trade line sitting up there, about there somewhere. If we were to come to the top of the range, and given what's happened in every day since when June 1st, basically, we've gone from the top to the bottom of that range. If that were to be the case today, then tomorrow this would look good for downside. Here's the best place to enter a short, by the way, either here or here. No question. You don't want to enter you can, but it's fraught with danger, and the reward's far less, of course, than if you got in up here. So I'm looking at this area to get into this pound US dollar short at some stage. But here's where the real action will happen, in my humble. If this actually breaks, this is going to go, and it's going to go fast, in my opinion. So we will see. G'day, Paul P. How you doing? Happy Monday to you too, bud. I'm happy you're here, and I'm not going to trade the pound breakout. So there you go. Now, let me go to my analysis for the week, which began yesterday, of course. And I really only had 4 weekly reversal bars. Now, those of you who are aware of what I look for on a Sunday and a Monday, I go through all the symbols on the weekly chart, and I look for one thing and one thing only at this point, and that is a key reversal bar. Now, we had a key reversal bar last week, higher than the previous, and closed on or near its low, and that converted. That was euro yen. Now, we spoke about euro yen last week, and we spoke about euro yen the week before. Why so? Because we were counting all these candles that were mounting and mounting and mounting and mounting. And as I said to you at the time, this is not only rare, I think it's unprecedented, certainly unprecedented on my charts. And the only thing that was a concern is we didn't really get to this high. But I think that may well be underway, and I see 2 potentials here for the retrace, if it is to be one. And that's down to here, down to 130, and even beyond that to about 127. So I think there are both possibilities. And I wouldn't say I'm busting my neck to get into it, but I'd be really happy if I can find a way in. The pivots today look absolutely appealing. I'm not sure if I've even had a test yet. Does anyone know how to get rid of this bloody thing? This white line? It's just there.
What is it, mate?
I have got no flipping idea, but it just drives me nuts. Yeah, I can't. Nothing happens.
So when you scroll over it, it's not named, is it? What does it say there?
Yeah, it's telling me MS shift.
Oh, is that to do with the trade manager?
It must be monthly support, maybe. Well, it must be. But how you get rid of the bloody thing, I've got no idea. How can I see where this can? I just can't.
Is it only on that particular product, or is it on all of them?
Let me see if I can go here. It's on everything.
It's on everything. Okay.
None. No, I haven't got anything on switched on monthly pivot, so can't be monthly pivot. I don't know. Somebody will know, and if anybody does, I really do want to know. How are you, mate? Anyway, how was your weekend?
Oh, do you know, it's lovely, mate. Yeah, it's really lovely. Things are really chilled out, and work is good. You know, I certainly can't grumble about things at the minute. Things are pretty rolling on really well, mate, I have to say.
Nice. Was going to say something that I've completely gone out of my mind now. You'd have nice weather at the moment, also.
Yes, it's been absolutely beautiful.
That wasn't what I was going to say, but what I was going to say, I'll have to wait for another day. Now I'm having issues with this. Okay, that's better. So if anybody in the room actually knows what this line is, I would be most grateful. Is it on all, I'm pretty sure it's on all charts. It's not on that one. It's only for liaison by the look of it.
It's only right. There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, okay, on there. I haven't got the EAs on anything else, I don't think. Okay, thank you. I worked it out. Happy days, mate. I was it's Monday,
Yeah.
and we're doing this this weekly thing, pick of the week.
Oh yeah.
And last week was this one, Kiwi Swissy.
Yeah.
Looks great, doesn't it?
It was a sell, was it?
No.
Oh.
It was a buy above this buy. So I better get rid of that, actually. That's got to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can give you the from the fundamental cotton seasonal perspective. I mean, we can have a little rundown actually. The COT data is still suggesting short on the pound and short on the CAD. The fundamentals actually are still pretty supportive of the pound. They're probably a little bit weaker with the CAD, so the CAD might be a little bit better. But I think what might be significant is the lockdown is likely to be delayed from the UK, and if the lockdown is delayed, then that may well put some pressure on the pound, because Boris Johnson is coming out and saying that the Delta variant is concerning enough to hold back, because we're due to open next Monday, and with the cases spiking, hospitalizations spiking as well, it may not be the best time to do it. So I think they're probably going to hold back a few weeks. So it's possible that we see some downside with the pound. It's also possible that we see some downside with the CAD. Selling the CAD may not be the most comfortable position to be in because of what's going on with oil. But it's probably something that needs to be on the watch list. So I would have thought the pound is probably the best. The euro is also a little bit weak fundamentally. It's kind of neutral when it comes down to COT data and seasonals. The Swissy still does look a bit weak as well when it comes down to the COT data, and I think that there was a bit of a spike in selling pressure from the Swissy as well. So that would probably direct us towards long dollar Swiss, maybe short pound dollar. Looks like a potential if we believe in the dollar.
I was just saying to the guys, this is a fantastic place to actually get into this market where we are. There's big confluence here. Monthly pivot, bottom of the range, bottom of two other ranges. I think this is excellent place. And I
what
do
chart
think
is that?
That's cable daily.
That's cable. Yeah.
The only issue, of course, is this hasn't yielded it yet. But I think once this area does yield, if it does, then we're off to the races, and we're off to the races pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah.
Because that's a big build-up that we're looking at there.
You may well be right. You may well be right, and I suppose. So you're talking about long pound?
Either. I don't care.
Either, yeah. Well, I mean,
I just want to trade from where it is.
The short pound is possible because of the lack of opening, the lack of opening of the economy in a week. Now, it could be that people are waiting to get the absolute announcement, but I think it's possibly starting to be accepted that that's going to be the case, that they're not going to open. So that would suggest a short pound. But as I say, data-wise, the pound is, the UK has been performing pretty well. So that would certainly kind of put the spotlight on the pound, and it might be one of those things that you kind of, possibly even a short to go long.
Are we now in a week where we're going to rely on the greenback? I can't wear that.
Yeah, difficult to predict on that one. The G7 over the weekend maybe have churned out or has churned out some fairly interesting reports from their particular side, but we got the Fed this week, which is probably going to be more of a catalyst, and people may well wait on that catalyst. Gold has weakened as well, so it is showing that we are having a little bit of dollar strength coming into play.
Yeah, it had a good day on Friday, I think, didn't it? The dollar.
Do you know the biggest problem for the dollar I'm finding is that the numbers are they're just a bit bitty, if for want of a better word. They're not really pinpoint focused. You kind of anticipate something coming out, and then it kind of goes in the opposite direction, or it's not quite as significant as it was before. So that's where the dollar is difficult, and I suspect there's the two ways to play it is that you just wait for the breakout and try and trade the breakout, and it probably give us plenty of time, or you build a very small position in this area. Just to kind of counter some of the fluctuations that are still likely to happen until we get a defined direction of what the data is suggesting. But we might still be in a bit of a difficult phase, mate. It's nothing is suggesting a huge breakout just yet.
No, except the wind up, I suppose, for pound US dollar. This is primed and ready to go, but I still don't know which way.
Yep.
But yeah, short here makes sense if we can get through the monthly pivot and retest it. I think that's probably the go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Have you got a strong currency other than a potential strong dollar? I can't really.
No.
I can't really find one.
No, absolutely right. I mean, nothing is particularly strong. The yen is kind of heading into a strong seasonal period, but because the data points, globally still are solid, the yen isn't really one that you'd want to go towards. COT data is fairly neutral as well on the yen, and actually the fundamentals on the yen aren't particularly good either. They're a bit tepid. The Aussie is still the one that is probably performing okay. It's probably the seasonals don't suggest it necessarily. The COT data is not suggesting a real big breakout, but the Australian economy is just relatively solid. And because again, of the way that the world is currently going in, the direction that we're currently going in, which seems to be more economies opening up and potentially utilizing some of those commodities that Australia produce, you'd kind of say that the Aussie is the safest economy to be in right now. I would have thought, is that some of the others don't really jump out. Even the Kiwi might not be quite as good, but I would still say those kind of Antipodean currencies are probably the best place to be, or best economies to be kind of involved in right now.
Yeah, big breakout on Friday on Aussie Kiwi.
Yeah, but also the UK, this lifting lockdown being delayed on the 21st is the fly in the ointment. But otherwise, actually, the UK has been performing pretty well. Some of the speculation that was floating around before has probably been maybe sort of swept under the carpet a little bit, because the UK has been the numbers have been really good, and what you notice with this stuff is that, or what I've noticed with this stuff is that numbers globally have been good, And it's not really about whether you can look at a country and say, you know, how are they performing, because they're all performing okay. You know, the really what I'm looking at is the rate of change between 1 month to the next. And even though overall there's actually been just a little bit of a curbing of some of the growth that we initially saw, which was probably inevitable. What I am seeing is that the likes of the euro have probably got some data points that have been coming off a little bit faster than the likes of the UK and Australia. Same with the US. You know, the US has had a really good boom, but it is just starting to maybe show some signs of that particular momentum just curbing a little bit. So it's trying to pick the one that still has that momentum going. I mean, you know, as I say, I'd say that the yen is the one area that isn't really showing particularly solid momentum. It just hasn't showed solid momentum in comparison to some of the others. So it's still probably the weakest currency, but we're not really getting an extreme, and that means that there's just a lack of volatility, and it's making it very difficult actually to kind of like pick out, you know, what you'd want to do and what you'd want to trade. The FTSE looks really good this morning. Equities still look really good this morning. So, you know, there's something on the cards there. There's something that people could certainly continue to look for. Higher highs in equities potentially, but then if the dollar strengthens, that wouldn't be the best place to be either. So so we're still in this kind of this crossfire. And you know as well as anybody, mate, sometimes the best thing to do is just wait, because it will change. It's just that the current phase we're in is just excruciatingly slow.
Yeah, I was saying before you came in, the pound in particular, go back to the pound, it's been ranging, but it's been ranging in a violent fashion. I mean, look at the daily bars. You know, they're really solid. They're really solid, and every second day is a different result.
Yeah,
and that's of course typical of range, but it's not giving us it's not giving me any opportunities to actually get into it because it's just so fast. There's no pullback.
That trend line that you got on there, mate, on that previous chart.
Yep.
When you pull that down to the low of the previous white bar,
pull it down to the low.
Yeah, the one going up. Yeah, the uptrend line that you've got. Because currently price action's under. Sorry. Yeah.
That's actually not a trend line. That's a channel. So
okay.
Let me get rid of that and put the trend line in. I'll hide it. Okay, so yeah, there's not really a trend line there for me that makes sense other than this one. And it's still under it.
Okay, all right, interesting. Okay. Yeah, just trying to get a kind of technical pattern. What about one from the very, very low lowest point? Yeah, down there. What does that do?
So for you, it would probably bring you to there. Yeah, again, it's adding more confluence points to this area. This is where I want to trade from. Something's going to happen here. I can feel it in my bones.
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right, and I suppose it's just figuring out what that catalyst is actually going to be, and maybe the announcement of lifting restrictions, how long that's going to go on for might be something.
Yeah, I think I'd like to get in somehow before any of those things happen. Fed in particular as well, you know. I'd just like to be in the market and free trading, because if this does explode, you probably won't get a chance to get into it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to go fast, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because of all this. I mean, this is meaning something, meaning that there's we all say it's a coil spring, don't we? And I think that's exactly what's happening here. And this confluence area leads me to that's the point it's going to explode from. We'll see. So I really haven't got a weekly thing this week. I suppose we better make one up. That sounds a bit weird, and I don't mean to trade it. It's just something to keep our eye on, right? Now, I did like Aussie Swissy again, and I know John's been in that for. I think he's out of it now. When I say I like it, I like the shape of it, but I don't like where I'd have to get in. And we have had a bit of a rally. This is the bar that's interesting, key reversal bar. The problem, of course, is getting in at this level, and I don't want to get in at this level, but the retracement that we seem now to be having, maybe if it would come up to this trend line here, that would be good. If we get up to here and use this confluence area as our springboard to the downside again, I think that would be okay. But it's not one that I'd say, okay, jump in now, because that bar is at a support level. So it's not a sell zone right now for me. Mm-hmm. Aussie on the weekly, again, another key reversal bar, but what I don't like about this is 1, 2, 3 completely indecisive bars prior to it. Is it strong enough to drive the market down? The thing I do like about it is coming off the top of the range, and it has rejected the monthly pivot. And it has, so this is probably my favorite of the 4 that actually did show me a key reversal bar, because it's come off the monthly, it went through the weekly, and it touched, of course, it created the new daily, I think, but I think that's the better one. Daily from Friday is also a key reversal bar. I'd love to see a test of the daily pivot here and a rejection of that. Maybe on the 4-hour chart would also be a retest of that breakout level. So I think this is a good place to look for it. Daily pivot and weekly pivot very close together. May even have to look for that on a smaller time frame if it does test the daily pivot a little bit later. So I think for me, out of certainly Aussie Swissy and Aussie dollar is the better of the key reversal bars. Pound Aussie on the weekly chart was also a key reversal bar. Now, if I can go with pound positivity, then this is probably a good one as well. It's the reverse of what we've just looked at, basically, but it has rejected the monthly pivot, crossed last week's weekly pivot, and closed above it. If this is an inside bar on the weekly, then you'd look to trade it long, but obviously we've got 5 days of trading to go before that. The daily chart wasn't a key reversal bar, but Thursday's was, and that played out, of course, and hit the weekly pivot. It's just a little bit too tough for me, I think, until I do get that retracement, exactly the same as upside down on Aussie dollar. Until I do get that retracement. Maybe I've got it already on the 4-hour chart. That would have to be a black bar to get me interested, though. It does hint of a false break of that support area, but let me get that correct on this time frame. Yeah, it's a bit long in the tooth to be calling that, frankly, but it does look as though that area has been falsely broken. It actually looks a bit better than I thought.
Yeah, that's a pretty good line.
It's interesting. This one here hasn't been broken. Can I go long here? I've got 14 pips versus 50. Yeah. No, I think I'd wait. I don't mind getting down here, but I haven't really got anything to get long off. Nah, I'm talking way later today. And the other one, Ash, was bloody dollar yen, put in a key reversal bar as well, though it is questionable. It has got a little bit of a tail to the high side. It's more a spinning top than a reversal bar for mine. So I'd be happy to leave that alone. It's also preceded by a high test bar. So it's kind of, and I don't like trading it either. So
yeah, do you know, mate? I mean, it's so evident when you're looking at these. Well, that doesn't look anywhere near as bad, but it's so evident just the kind of stuck in a range situation that we've got here is
they're all the same.
Yeah, it's making things very, very difficult, and we saw the FTSE actually rally on just on Friday, but it was futures expiry, so and then rolling over to the next kind of quarter, and I don't know, that may well have had a bit of a play in it, but it's just a very sleepy market. But I suppose it's come so far so fast. This kind of period was probably quite inevitable, but geez, how long is it going to go on for? To try and get a trend. I mean, you look at that. What's that chart you got there?
Dollar yen weekly.
Dollar yen weekly, yeah. I mean, look at that moving up. From the lows. What a great period to kind of get involved in the market. But really, what we had now, like 10 weeks of just a difficult kind of choosing direction, and volatility is just so low, and normally from a long-term sort of like trade perspective, you'd be thinking, okay, well, let's go for a 1 month to 3 month time horizon. Doesn't even look like that would work at the minute.
The only thing I can give you from this chart, well, I can give you two things from this chart, but I probably need to go to the monthly to confirm it. Yes, I do. The one thing I can see from this chart is that we have broken the downward channel, right? And we've been unable to close below it. So for that reason, I've got to be thinking we're going to test these highs again.
Yeah.
But how do we trade that? Do we just trade that rejection bar and run into the top of this one? I don't know. I don't trade that way. But I can see why people would want to do that. I can see why people will want to buy this market right there. That would make sense. Is it the best trade in the world? Not for mine, because of the one that precedes it.
It's another one of those sort of situations where what you're looking at visually when you see the bars printed is only a snapshot of information. It doesn't tell us anything about the actual volatility that is creating the bar. It doesn't tell us anything about the volume that's creating the bar or the momentum, because one white bar looks the same as another white bar over a period. It's just actually trying to get to the bottom of where a genuine opportunity lies. And of course there are things out there, but when it comes down to the products that we've got on offer here, I'm not sure whether they're there or not. It's very, very difficult. We almost need to see a reversal. We almost need to see things go in the opposite direction so we can get a genuine bounce, trampoline kind of effect, where the market continues to go in the direction that overall it should go in, which is bullish. The confidence is definitely there.
This chart's telling me that also.
Lewis is saying the daily seem clearer for the short term.
On all daily charts?
I guess he's talking about all daily charts, yeah.
So we've got to pick, Ash, between pound Aussie and Aussie dollar.
Which direction's the Aussie dollar?
Aussie dollar is short.
Okay.
And pound Aussie is long. So it's both.
So it's really
charts.
The pound versus the dollar.
Yep.
Okay. I would probably go with the dollar at this stage than the pound. The opening is bothering me a bit. I think the dollar is probably just gaining just a little bit of interest without it being particularly extreme. So I probably go for the dollar. I think for if we're talking short term, I might well stick with the pound. But if we're talking about maybe, over the next sort of like week to a month, I'd probably choose the dollar.
All right. So we're talking. Well, we are talking week to a month. We're talking bottom of this range. So it's not going to get there tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. In that case, yeah, I'd definitely go dollar.
All right. So I will place that order.
Oh, nice.
Now, guys, this is our new thing, right? So don't load up on this by any stretch of the imagination. It's what I'm considering that between Ash and myself, Ash's analysis and my analysis, is the best one for the week. Now, that doesn't say it's a good trade by any stretch of the imagination, but we're going to trade the best one for the week each week. And until the week ends, it will not close, right? So we'll just leave it open until the week closes. If it hasn't triggered, we'll close it. If it has, we'll manage it probably on Thursday night or Thursday during the show before we close it.
Yes. So with the with that Kiwi Swissy, we're still in that because it hasn't triggered, is it? Or it has triggered?
No, it's cancelled.
It's cancelled. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So we just cancel it when the week's over. We cancel it. Righto. So we're only going with a small amount of money on the table. It is a sell stop, and I didn't get the level. Assuming that is the level, 77, 76.87. That looks about right. We'll go with 0.7681 will be the entry. And the stop loss will be 0.7781. So I'll be 100 pips on the knocker.
Lewis likes that Aussie yen, Aussie dollar short as well. So we got a few trading buddies into this one.
Awesome. Okay, so the reason I'm happy with this is, as I said before, it's a clear range that's just started to be formed really on the weekly chart, and we've come off the top. We've put in, pardon me, a lower low. And potentially this is a lower high. It's only very, very minute, but it is. And it's key reversal bar. So why not? But small risk, as I said. Speaking of Kiwi Swiss, as we were, that was a key reversal. Sorry, that was a key reversal. Wasn't a key reversal? Yes, it was. But it did have a long tail on the head. So they're probably ones to take note of. If they have come off a fair bit, they're probably not as good as the ones that are closing really close to their top, such as that. And then we had the inside bar. Now this hasn't worked yet, and really, if I go back in time, I think, is it a downtrend? You've probably got to call it a broken downtrend at this point, but they're the criteria of key reversal bars and inside bars. They've got to be with the primary trend. So Kiwi Swiss is gone. Now Euro Swissy bloody thing didn't hit our target by about 5 pips, I think.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And I did put 7 pips, I think it was. I did put a Friday update on this one and said if it didn't hit its target by less than 5 pips or 5 pips or less, get out, because it's so close. It's not funny. Now I haven't done that, mind you, and you're now in that unenviable situation where, okay, do I give Friday's profit up and just get out of this and close it, or do I think this is a retracement on the sell-off and we're still going to hit target? That becomes a personal thing. To my mind, that level still will be tested. So I'm going with this as we've got the pivots there, weekly pivots rather is there, and maybe that's the go. We come off that we might even get a little bit more out of this. I don't know, but I'm sticking with it. Do I want to take more profit? We're at entry. We've taken profit. Yeah, look, I'm tempted to, but I'm going to stick with the target, guys. And actually, if it looks like going through there, what I will do is go down to a smaller time frame, say an hourly chart, and just trail it. If it does hit that target, I'll move my stop loss right on top of the hourly bars and trail them just in case it goes through. But yeah, just gives you the SH1Ts when that has happened. I mean, worse things could happen, of course. We could have lost on the trade, but at the moment, I'm trusting the weekly pivot to give us some more downside and hit that target. I don't think I've got anything much more than that this early in the week, mate. So I did Aussie yen. We didn't look at Aussie yen, did we? You're out of that now, aren't you? Or you're still in?
No,
Thanks.
mate. Do you know what? I had a good day on Friday with the footsie, and it meant that I could shave off the position with the Aussie yen. And the reason that I did it was because, firstly, you know, the footsie profit kind of hedged out the loss with the Aussie yen that I had because it was quite small. And also the second thing was that the data just keeps adding up to this bull market. And even though it's not that I'm against the Aussie yen short, I'm recognizing really that if the timing is off by, let's say, another 4 weeks, I'm paying swaps on this thing. So I just I made a decision at that point to say, look, I'm not going to pay for something that is actually not in profit. I will wait and see if there's a potential situation later down the line. So I have closed my Aussie yen position now. I closed out a lot of positions, which is, I had a really nice weekend actually for it, because I can just really sort of start again from scratch from here on in. And it's one of those things that, the frustrating thing is that because Friday was such a good day on the footsie, I really made no money on Friday because I was balancing out positions that were in a loss. But I ended up kind of flat on the day. But it just meant that I can sort of, as I say, sort of start from scratch again. So I think it was well worth doing. I would have been pig sick if I'd woken up this morning and I'd seen the Aussie yen to the downside, but it hasn't happened, so I feel all right about it at the minute. So it means is that if it does shape up, I've got another opportunity to get into the short, not a problem.
Well, it does look keen at the moment. It has broken that trend line, of course. I'm still keen to get back into it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how at the moment, to be fair. 4-hour chart. It's not sure, is it?
It's just, do you know what? It's been, I have to say, mate, ever since I got into it, and I suppose because I did get into it, I was watching it even more closely. It has been an incredibly frustrating pair to try and get anything out of. Because it looked like it was going, then it reversed. It looked like it was going, and then it reversed. And I think that's my problem right now, is that I'm getting to the point that I don't know when it's going to go, which means that if I'm paying swaps every day that I'm waiting on it, then it's starting to really cost me, and it's starting to cost me kind of mental equity as well. So that's why I close it, and it is a really frustrating one. It might be one of those ones. We might be in one of those kind of particular areas where, and everybody's experienced this, where you have your SF. We'll get to in one moment, buddy. It's everybody's had this where your indicators suggest that you should do something because that's what we've been taught to do. Look at the indicators, and that's what they all say. But then it just doesn't pan out, and it might be one of those things. And this is the thing about indicators and strategies. Of course they work, but they won't work all the time because sometimes you'll get situations like this which need a different type of approach. And the indicators that I was looking at on the Aussie yen just weren't working. So, rather than, as I say, it continued to cost me any money, I thought, let's close it up and see if I can actually wait for just a clear sign of what's going on.
And it's still not there.
And it's still not there. And you've got, I mean, looking at that chart there, mate, there's also the trend line that you could actually draw at the bottom of that white wick. Yeah, you see one more low down from there. It could start one lower. One further back to the left.
I'm trying to grab it.
Oh, yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah. You know, it could be starting there. I don't know where that leaves us price action wise when you go down to the
well, it leaves you with it's still struggling at that level, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I suppose what I'd quite like to see is just a breakdown of that level, just to get some clarity. I mean, you could even start one back from that. It's just been a really difficult one. So so yeah, I'm sticking out of this one for right now. Don't really get any clarity. SF's asking about the dollar CAD for a long, which I have to say the data and the cotton seasonals would have said that the dollar CAD is also a good one to go long for. You know, the CAD looks fairly weak. The problem is oil. You know, and it'd be great to see oil just ease off a little bit and see if that particular commodity was not there to kind of help the Canadian economy while we're trying to trade the CAD short.
Ooh, big breakout, wasn't it?
Mm.
Are you in, SF?
Really nice bar, isn't it, that one? Let's just have another look on this screen here.
Saying a lot. When did we start looking to trade this? It was a while back. And I can't remember what happened. Can't remember. I think we got into this at some stage.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an accumulation pattern there. And
see, if this is to reverse, then you know there's worse things to do than just entering above that candle. But whoa, where are you going to put your stop?
Well, this is what I was saying, mate. I wonder whether the only way to trade the dollar right now is to either wait for a breakout or ease into a position with very little money, and put your stop at the low. Put the stop at the low, but ease in just in case there is a big spike, and then you can start building into, you know, heavier positions later down the line, because you don't want to kind of like go in too heavy here just because it was still in that really irritating range. But you know, whether it's a short, and I suppose that's the thing, it still looks to me like a long-term horizon type of trade rather than looking for anything too short-term, because it looks like these markets are cutting people up right now. So looking at the long term might be the better way to go with it.
It is a nice breakout, I'll have to grant you that. But it is super counter momentum. Oh, Jesus, look at that. So the bigger picture here, that's a monthly chart, is that's dominant. That's really dominant.
But that's at the low, isn't it? I mean, that is a buy zone.
Right now it is.
Yeah.
But it's only, I don't know if I trust it too much.
SF's waiting for entry.
Yeah. Maybe it's got a bit in it.
That's yeah, nobody really knows what to do with the dollar. The thing is, you know, what really happened with the market the other day, and what people seem to be trusting, is the Fed's rhetoric about this being transitory inflation. And I read an article the other day that was saying, yeah, you know, these are the same people that said the subprime mortgage wasn't a problem, so be careful what you trust. And I thought it was quite poignant, actually, is that the market may well be saying this is transient, because, you know, everybody might then saying, oh, it's transient because the Fed say so, and we all start saying the same thing, so it becomes self-fulfilling. But actually, what do we really think?
I think this is down here somewhere. Yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah.
maybe not till 2025, but
Yeah, this is it, isn't it?
That's where I'm seeing this at some stage. That's massive.
Canada's data hasn't been, that spectacular recently. It's been okay, but it is easing again. So I think this is all right. SF personally, I think looking for upside is a not a bad shout.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. Like I said, this is 2025. I might be talking.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking just because I'm saying this is massive, and it is massive, and I believe one day that will become this down here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon. And you can't use that as a bias to trade intraday. So certainly not at all. You've just got to recognize that you're at a support level right now, and you've had 1, 2, 3 phases of bullish activity in those months. Pardon me. So you are ready for a rally. There's no question about that. But it will. I don't know on that bigger picture. That's not going to be too dramatic. I don't think. As I said, maybe 300 pips, something like that. But certainly, I wouldn't like to be. I wouldn't like to be looking for a big run on this. Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, on an intraday level, that would be attractive, though, wouldn't it? If you're getting 300 pips,
absolutely, sure.
Or even on a daily chart, I think that's pretty good. So
well, see, that's the problem you've got now, is you risk only 200 to get 3, so that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. Unless you can figure out a way to add as it goes.
Yes.
And that's probably the most sensible thing to do. Try and look for that 300 and think, okay, where would the add points be if I can get in? And you'd want to try and get your initial entry at break even, and then start to add. So you only ever really got one position at risk.
So there they are for me. They're add points for mine.
Yeah.
And you target, where did I say, 124-ish, something like that? Was that it?
We're not really seeing strength in the dollar, in the COT, Lewis. It's okay, it's not spectacular. But you're right, though. It does make it a dollar CAD long in the short term. You're absolutely right on that, because the CAD's quite weak, so the dollar's not particularly amazing. It's okay on the COT, but the CAD is weak on the COT, and it's weak on the seasonals as well. And the fundamentals aren't great. They're okay. They're sort of relatively benign. So you'd probably have a green light to push it to look for upside. The economic data from the States as well is, it's kind of in the balance. You get a good point, bad, but not such a good point. Bit of strength, but not at the same kind of rate. So this is really what's manifesting itself in the charts. I honestly don't think people know, or traders know, quite what to do at this stage to get a really good handle on exchange rates, and it is kind of like being expressed in the charts. And this is the problem, I suppose, when you get kind of globalization and everybody kind of almost agreeing on the same policy, is that you just get this logjam where nobody's really kind of breaking out. And this is the great thing about Brexit. Brexit did actually sort of like give us a shake-up. The thing about Trump is he was constantly shaking things up. We really might be in a period over the next 4 years where things are just difficult, to actually get some real movement, because a Biden administration just might be a calmer set of hands. And as much as kind of probably investors would quite like that, as from a trader's perspective, it's proving to be quite tricky. It's unlikely to remain the same. There will be sort of like the odd month or few months which do shift, because there's always global tension. But I wonder whether we're going to have a situation which is the counter to Trump's, where those kind of calmer situations were almost the with the extraordinary side of it, because there was so much movement. Now I wonder with Biden whether the extraordinary aspect is when we do actually get some movement, and we're just going to get a fairly benign kind of market for many years, where it just kind of travels for a bit and then sticks in a range for quite a few weeks and months. Might be the case.
That's okay, as long as it the uniform ranges. I mean, like I said before, the pound is so difficult to trade right now. The range is clear. It's absolutely no problem with that. But getting entries is just not there, because it just goes woof, 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 woof.
Yeah.
Unless you're scalping, and scalpers be having a great time, I would imagine. But maybe I should scalp. Maybe I should.
Well, do you know, with this, it is an answer, isn't it, to change the time horizon, because the longer term ones right now are just are not really going anywhere.
No, not at all. I'll think about that. The trouble with that is, and I've always had trouble with it, is you just never know when that breakout's coming.
No.
And when it comes, you can get yourself in all sorts of
no, which I suppose that the only way to get around that is by mitigating it from the start and saying, okay, look, this is the risk. The risk is it breaks out. How can we mitigate that risk? And go with that, because at that point, then we'll be looking at a different methodology, I suspect. But right now, the range, going from one end of the range to the other, it looks pretty sound.
Did we trade this? No, it was the euro we traded.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, how many of these would we need before we almost have mitigated that risk from one loss being not too damaging at all? If we get 3 winners, we should be in pretty good shape, shouldn't we?
So these are the beauties. These are great. If they close on their high, you can get an entry underneath them.
Yeah.
And then they become false. You're in. You're done.
Yeah.
This one here didn't quite do it, but same thing. Your false breaks. Love false breaks. Okay, we'll keep concentrating on those. There's a good way to go. Everyone's on top of that, aren't they? These big bars these dominant bars. And let's go and use dollar CAD, for instance, right? Where do we put that? Down here somewhere. Big bar like that, absolutely great to trade a false break on. Why? Because if it isn't a false break, it's going to here, and then to here, then to here. So you're not going to be taken into the trade. But if it is a false break, the very first point that it's proven to be false is underneath that candle. This one's a little bit too big, but maybe that's worth a look. Risk 100. Reward 50. Trend continues, maybe. Yeah, no. It's hard, isn't it? Because you are at a buy zone.
Yeah, I think so. And that does look like an inverted head and shoulders, as complex as it is. Could be the start of a few patterns. Actually, it might be the start of a cup and handle. It's but it looks like it's either way. There's accumulation going on down there.
Yes, no question. That's the hard part. That is the hard part. Do you go long now or don't you? It's never one that I've been any good at, I've got to say. But
I guess the question is, why would it break out today?
Well, it won't break out today. And you probably, I think the thing is, the reverse of what I just said is also true, right? If this doesn't come back into itself, it is going to go further. It's going to go and test this high at least, I would think. But that doesn't give you much reward either. So you've got to stay in past that point to get to here, I guess, to give you some sort of reward. So that's where these breakout candles are very, very difficult to trade when they're so large. and that's why I'd be looking to pick it up as a retracement down here somewhere. And if it didn't get well into this candle, then that's probably what's going to happen. But probably doesn't mean too much. At the end of the day, you've still got to find a way into that. And I'm loath to trade that bar. But there'll be worse things to do. And, you know, if it gets up to here, we'll be saying, well, why didn't we trade that? How obvious was it?
Yeah. I mean, let's have a look. What does Forex Factory say this week? I think it's is it Wednesday or Thursday? So we got manufacturing sales from Canada today. We got Governor Bailey today from the UK. That could be, actually, we got Governor Bailey today and tomorrow, and it could be significant, you know, depending on what's mentioned about that lockdown scenario. And it might be that people are waiting on Governor Bailey to speak before they do anything with the pound. So we may see some movement with the pound over the next couple of days. Core retail sales from the United States on Tuesday, and PPIs on Tuesday as well. Canada's got CPI on Wednesday, so that's a possible catalyst time, as has the UK. And we got Governor Lowe so actually quite a few speeches this week. It looks like Governor Lowe from Australia on Thursday, maybe give some movement. S&B press conference from Switzerland on Thursday as well. And that will be it. BOJ press conference on Friday with a monetary policy statement on Friday. So actually a few bits and pieces this week, mate, that could provide some movement. Whether people would trade a breakout before those announcements or those press conferences happen it would be a little bit of a question for me. Probably Wednesday, when you see that Canadian CPI data, might give a clear indication of what direction you could go in with the CAD. If it's not quite as high as expected, might see some CAD weakness, and that might be the time to pull the trigger with the dollar CAD trade.
I'm seeing. Yeah, sorry, I'm just having a look. I haven't looked at Forex Factory yet. Yeah, that's interesting. CAD. See, CAD's got every right to be strong. Every right to be strong. Oil, interest rate differential, everything's good. Except it did have a little bit of bad news. Was it last week?
I was going to say, mate, that some of the numbers that have been coming out recently have just been a bit slower than some of its peers. You know, just comparing like manufacturing PMIs, and it's only picking one out. Manufacturing PMIs that were released on the 1st of June. The Canadian manufacturing PMI went from 57.2 to 57, so 0.2 difference to the negative. Right below it, you've got manufacturing PMIs from the States went from 61.5 to 62.1. So there's a positive there. So if you're sort of like looking at the difference in growth, Canada, when I looked at it, was not growing at the same pace as some of the others. So yes, the oil scenario would be positive right now, but some of the other kind of details that are on Canada suggest that maybe it's not the strongest currency. Maybe it's not kind of surging ahead as it was doing initially. So we might well have a green light to go for a little bit of short on that, a little bit of selling.
Well, Lewis, as you point out correctly, of course, that is very much a bull flag sitting there right now. To my mind, I would love to see this break down to here, then get back above it, and retest the confluence. So get out of this range, back inside it. Then I reckon there'd be a really good go at that on the hourly. I like that. That looks good to me. But it's got to get there. And at the moment, it's fiddling around inside there doing absolutely nothing. So SF, you're waiting for a traditional entry like a retest of the pivots or something like that. Something similar to what I've just said would be nice, I think. I do like that.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. And this is the thing, I suppose, is to try and stick with a you know what you'd look for visually. And all we're trying to do really is trying to figure out sentiment, aren't we? Trying to figure out what direction it might go in. And I think there's a case to be made for dollar CAD long. So to look for an entry off some kind of signal, I think would be okay. You know, I wouldn't see a problem with that at all. But I would definitely wait for that entry to happen, just to make sure that you're not trading something that you're not really sure where to put your stops and you're not really sure where your targets are. So I'd be really clear about how you want to manage the trade. But I would go with dollar CAD long personally.
All right. So if we come back tomorrow and we've had a breakout of here that turned false and we've gone to 150, not going to happen. Not in a hurry anyway. We've probably just solved the problem. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, let's wrap it because I haven't really got too much else. The FTSE's just put in a pretty negative-looking hourly bar, but a lot of the other sort of like things on the FTSE right now look a little bit tepid. We can have a very, very quick look at what's going on with equities right now. And really, when we're looking at these equities, I am considering what's going on with the potential opening of the UK economy. You know, that might well have some kind of play. It might have some kind of play with what's going on with China and America as well. You know, there seems to be a bit of pressure from the G7. But this bar here, and this is again, you know, it's one of those that you see this bar and you go, well, there's a seller's bar if ever I saw one. And I suppose ordinarily you could say that, but it's still all about context. Yes, we're at a high, and you know there might well be sort of enough to suggest some downside, but I don't know if you can see these numbers over here very clearly, but there's very little movement, which is suggesting that this bar is you know, lacking volatility currently. Now, if we bring in the VIX, and this is really what I wanted to kind of, you know, have a quick spin through the other signs and signals. If we bring in the VIX, then what I'd like to see with the VIX, this is a good bar from the other day, you know, for VIX upside, which does suggest weakness potentially with some global equities. So we bring in the VIX. This would suggest, this engulfing bar would suggest that the VIX could pop to the upside. And we need to look at the dollar. What's going on with the dollar? It's a bit tepid at the minute, but again, Friday's bar was suggesting that we might get some dollar strength. So going on what we have in front of us, it would suggest that there could be some weakness. Is this bar enough to kind of to trigger us in for a short? I would say probably not. And really, what I'd want to see with this one is the short-term timeframes actually breaking down. You know, this is still in an uptrend. When we look at this on the 15, there's a high and there's a potential higher low here. So I'd want to see this break down if I was going to be trading that short. But there's some signals. That bar's a signal, the VIX is a signal, and the dollar's a bit of a signal. We need to watch the S&P and the NASDAQ as well. But it doesn't look like it's either this morning, so it could be in the US session that we're looking at it, or it might even be tomorrow, mate. So I'm kind of with you where I just would prefer to wait for right now and see what happens.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things, and you need to recognize that that's the case. And once you've made that decision, I think it's very wise just to shut up shop, go and do something else.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that sounds good, mate. Okay, you going to have a nice glass of wine? And I'm
on the keto diet at the moment.
So, nice glass of whiskey then, or
whiskey works. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, have a great afternoon, mate, and everybody else have a great afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on where you are. Thanks for being our trading buddies. Thank you to Angel, as always. We'll be back tomorrow morning, mate.
We'll enjoy. Don't worry about that. Yes, we will be back tomorrow. See you later, guys.